In January 2016, the NHL announced that it would be bringing the World Cup of Hockey back from the dead. It was an international tournament that had been held twice before, once in 1996 and once in 2004. In '96, the tournament was designed to be a more inclusive competition replacing the Canada Cup, which was last played 5 years prior. With the breakup of the Soviet Union, creating a new tournament seemed fitting. In 2004, the World Cup popped up again, played just before the NHL lockout robbed us of an entire season. Then it went dormant.
To be honest, it's hard to track which international competitions matter most. There's the Olympics, of course, which allowed professionals to compete from 1998 until this year, when that was shut down officially. Then there's the IIHF World Championships, held around playoff time in the NHL season. Sweden beat Canada this year to win gold, in case you were curious. Don't lie, you didn't watch. And of course there's the World Junior Championships, where amateur players under 20 compete in a sort of mini-Olympics. It's held mid-season, but most players are in junior leagues, so being away from their team for a week or two doesn't really matter.
International competitions go back a long way in hockey history, and most of those tournaments were predicated on beating the Soviet Union. There was the Summit Series in 1972 and 74, the Super Series played 18 times between 1976 and 91, the Challenge Cup of 1979, and the Rendezvous of 1987.
All were tournaments pitting the Soviet Union against the rest of the friggin' NHL. And of those 22 series, the Soviet Union won 16 of them, losing just 3 and having the other 3 end in ties. 119 games, and the majority ended with the USSR beating the NHL or Canada in some form. What I'm trying to say is that international competition mattered more before the fall of the Soviet Union. There was a clear-cut bad guy, a dragon for us Westerners to slay.
The tournaments that were played either had a proud history like the Olympics, IIHF World Championships, or Canada Cup, or were marquee rivalries brought on by political intrigue. In other words, there was always a reason to watch. The 1996 World Cup of Hockey was cool because it served as a preview for the '98 Olympics, the first in which NHL players would be allowed to compete. The 2004 World Cup of Hockey was our last taste of NHL action before the lockout.
The 2016 World Cup of Hockey just felt hollow. Here's why.
From the get-go, it was pretty much established that this was just a cash grab by the NHL. League COO John Collins said, "We've grown to be a $4 billion business. The question now becomes, where does the next billion come from?" The tournament became a way for the NHL to promote itself under the guise of international competition. How do we know this? Because before a World Cup game was even played, they were making plans for the 2020 World Cup and a 2018 All-Star competition pitting the best of Canada and the US against the best of Europe, like how they used to do the NHL All-Star game in 1999. The tournament would feature the 6 nations that most NHL players come from: Canada, USA, Sweden, Russia, the Czech Republic, and Finland, in that order. Then they decided to fill out 2 more teams by doing a Frankenstein monster patchwork squad with the leftovers.
One of those squads was Team Europe, a collection of big-name European players that were too important to sit things out. In terms of NHL composition, Slovakia is 7th at 1.1%. Gotta throw in Yaroslav Halak and Zdeno Chara. Shoot, but we don't want to exclude Andrzej Kopitar. He's one of the best centers in the game. Tack on Slovenia! And we'll mix in some Germans, throw in a few Swiss players, Mats Zuccarello for the Norwegians, and BAM! 7 European countries on one team. NHL, you've done it again. We almost had to watch players from foreign leagues for a second there. But wait a minute. That leaves us with 7 teams. We can't have an odd number. I've got it. You know those World Juniors teams that everyone seems to love? Why don't we throw one of them in there? We'll just up the age a little bit, Danny Almonte style, and we're golden! But there's only so many Americans or Canadians that people know exclusively. Screw it! Team North America it is! Except you, Mexico. Scott Gomez ain't coming near this thing.
So Team North America was born, a collection of players from the US and Canada under 23 years old. This was a weird move on so many levels. A team of 23-year-olds are going to play so much different from older NHLers, and the removal of so many talented, fast players from teams USA and Canada are going to hurt their rosters a good deal. But at the same time, this was a chance for us to see the future of the NHL all on one team. The potential was incredible. And even though they had the most ridiculous jersey design in the world, it was almost like the league was saying, yes, You are selling your soul to root for this team. Yes, there's your own nation, but we have something even better than that.
Is the NHL trying to make us hate our own countries?
There was no sense of nationalism in this tournament, which was a huge draw for the 2014 Sochi Olympics, what with TJ Oshie's incredible shootout performance and all. Andrzej Kopitar said that while he wanted to be a part of the World Cup, not playing specifically for his country of Slovenia was bittersweet. There were no underdogs like how Latvia came a goal away from upsetting Team Canada in 2014 in the quarterfinals. It was, as Cathal Kelly wrote for the Toronto Globe and Mail, a party for only Goliaths. No Davids allowed.
Plus, for a tournament that wanted to showcase the very best that the NHL has to offer, there were a ton of notable absences that just made no sense.
Like, who would want to see Jake Muzzin on Team Canada over Chris Letang and PK Subban? Why was Corey Perry, who won gold as captain of the 2016 Canadian World Championship team just a few months earlier, left off? Phil Kessel and Tyler Johnson are omitted from Team USA, but Ryan Callahan and Justin Abdelkader make the team?
What gives? I don't even care if you dislike Phil Kessel. He's more fun to watch than Ryan friggin' Callahan. Kessel's plugging his ears with his 2 Stanley Cup rings to you fools.
You know who was on Team USA's blue line? Eric Johnson, Jack Johnson, and Matt Niskanen. Know who wasn't? Kevin Shattenkirk, Justin Falk, Keith Yandel, Cam Fowler, Torrey Krug, Nick Leddy. You know, guys who have either been to the Olympics or won a thing in their lives before, or can actually move the puck.
There was so much to laugh or shake your head at. John Tortorella, for instance, head coach of the US team, said that all of his players better stand for the national anthem. Fine. But there's a Team Europe in your group. They don't have a national anthem. What? You're going to stand for the full 5 minutes of the final countdown by the band Europe? What if you make it to the next group and you're playing Team North America? Are you going to play O Canada and the Star Spangled Banner simultaneously? Team USA was a mess. You've got John Tortorella as the head coach, who was coming off a horrible season with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he had just run Ryan Johansson out of town for no real good reason. The general manager, Dean Lombardi, comes out and says, "We don't want skilled players because we'd rather have a nucleus of caring," whatever that means. Their best player, Patrick Kane, was undergoing investigations for sexual assault allegations. Their best defenseman, Dustin Byfuglien, was getting randomly scratched for Jack Johnson of all people. It was just a debacle. Team USA lost all 3 games by a bad margin and were bounced in the first round. Thank God. Call me when the women are playing.
You know who was playing well in Group A, though? Team Europe. Yeah, that team, assembled like an arts and crafts project, shut out the Americans 3-0 in their first game. Then they upset the Czechs in overtime. They would eventually reach the finals of the tournament.
In the other group, the most exciting team to watch was Team North America.
They were flying all over the ice. Their stick handling was unparalleled. They won their first game against Finland and lost a nail-biter to Russia in their second. They fired 44 shots and nearly overcame a 4-1 deficit. In their final game, they topped hockey giant Sweden in overtime. Look at this goal scored by Austin Matthews. Firstly, since Matthews and McDavid play in different conferences and hail from different countries, this could very well be one of the last times they play on a line together. McDavid splits the defense like it's nothing. Matthews dangles Victor Hedman from his flippin' knees and gets a pass through Daniel Sedin's stick, then gets the rebound and pots a goal. The media started writing articles about how North America was the best thing about the tournament, and they were 100% right. This collection of kids played like they were on a mission. They wanted to prove that the platitudes about young players having a lot to learn in this league was bull. They wanted to show they were just as good, if not better, than the league's top vets. And above all, they wanted everyone to know that speed kills.
Unfortunately, Russia beat Finland in the last day of the round robin, and since they had beaten North America earlier, they held the tiebreaker. The great North American experiment lasted just 3 games. But they were far and away the best 3 games of the tournament.
The 3-on-3 overtime between North America and Sweden is all on YouTube. Watch it. It's some of the best pure hockey you'll ever see. And McKinnon's overtime winner is not suitable for work. It's that unclean.
We may never see a collection of youngsters like the 2016 Team North America again. On the same team, you had Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley, Shane Gostisbehere, Dylan Larkin, Nathan McKinnon. It was incredible. That team only lasted for 3 games is a travesty. A Team North America tournament victory would have totally made up for what was otherwise a lackluster bunch of games. Not all of the players looked like they were 100% invested, and who could blame them at the rate that guys were dropping like flies?
Florida's Aaron Ekblad suffered a concussion in the first game for North America and was sent home. He didn't miss any regular season time because of it, but he only had 2 points through his first month of the season, so maybe lingering effects? The Stars' Tyler Seguin suffered a foot injury and was pulled from the tournament. Again, didn't miss any regular season time, but was still scary for fans, especially since Jamie Benn pulled out of the tournament just a few weeks before it began to recover from a surgery, and Radek Faksa left the tournament early because of concussion symptoms. Penguins goaltender Matt Murray broke his hand during the tournament and missed a month of the regular season. Marcus Kruger left 1 game early with an upper body injury for Sweden and spent 3 weeks on the injured reserve later in the season with the same issue for the Blackhawks. Marian Hossa injured his foot in 1 game but kept playing and was hampered by injury last season both upper and lower body. He sat out the World Championships this year and called it a career in late June.
It's the nature of the beast. There's injuries in hockey. But it's for that exact reason that NHL owners fought so vehemently to have their players removed from Olympic rosters. Do you remember the John Tavares MCL injury at the 2014 Olympics that sank the Islanders' season? And Matt Zuccarello, who fractured his hand that same Olympics and missed a month of time for the Rangers. I get players want to represent their country. Who knows, maybe since the NHL is no longer allowed to participate in the Olympics, the World Cup of Hockey will gain more of a following. I sincerely doubt it. It's a pointless exhibition tournament and nothing more, but it could happen. The Olympic thing is unfortunate. But as a fan who never really cared about that sort of thing to begin with, I wouldn't want my players going either. Not in the middle of the season. The Stanley Cup trumps all as far as I'm concerned. So that leaves the IIHF World Championships, which, if your team makes the Stanley Cup playoffs, you wouldn't be able to watch your players participate in it anyway. The timing of it all is very unfortunate. But to tide us over, until the next pointless international tournament comes along to bridge the gap, we still have the highlights from the World Cup of Hockey's Team North America. The one team that was fun to watch.